Hey, good evening. Welcome to SportsBeat Live from Kansas City, coming at you the Sunday edition, which makes it the Chiefs postgame show. And we're here to talk about the Chiefs' loss to the Chargers today, but mostly to look ahead to the playoffs and what lies ahead for Kansas City. We do this with you all. Your questions and comments, please send them along. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And we do it with the people who know this team the best and cover it like nobody else. Already, we have in the house Sam Mellinger and Sam McDowell. Good to see you guys. We'll be joined by Vahe Gregorian and Herbie Tiopi a little bit later in the show. So Chiefs end up losing this game, Week 17, 38-21 to the Los Angeles Chargers. And in any other season, maybe, and any other week, I would look at a 17-point loss at Arrowhead Stadium and just think, wow, what a punch in the gut that was. And we'd be inundated with questions, who to bench, who to fire, all sorts of complaints from fans. Not happening tonight. But Sam McDowell, is there any reason to be, I don't know, a little bit uneasy about the way the game unfolded today?
No, none, I would say. Zero reason. I didn't even realize that they lost until you told me, Blair.
That's good.
After the game, though, I think obviously, Andy Reid actually even acknowledged they treated this like a fourth preseason game, which is what they did. But I was kind of surprised to hear him say that. And so I kind of looked at maybe some particular players that I thought the Chiefs were keeping an eye on, and therefore guys that we should probably keep an eye on. Darwin Thompson had a good day. Byron Pringle had a good day. Tim Ward had a sack, and that's a guy who doesn't have a lot of football experience. He's more of a project, and I think that's a good sign for him. And then another standout for me was DeAndre Baker. I thought he had some moments, and then him breaking his femur, Andy Reid told us in the post game, is just a shame considering what that guy's already gone through this year. So I think they were another guy that they thought could develop, maybe even to a contributor next season. So those were the four guys I kind of focused on a little bit.
Well, and look, Darwin Thompson did have a good 110 total yards from scrimmage, a couple of touchdowns. He only had one in his career as a rookie last year. So nice day for him. I agree with you. DeAndre Baker had the sack and seemed to be playing well. And then to break a femur, my gosh, former number one pick. And I think the Chiefs, we're thinking big things for him next year. So that's a shame. Tim Ward, interesting game, interesting player. Brett Veach has talked about him in the past. If you, and volunteers it. You don't ask him specifically about Tim Ward. He brings Tim Ward up, and guys that the Chiefs like. So, yeah, true on all counts. Sam, how about you, Melly? What's the takeaway from this?
The Willie Gay thing's interesting.
I didn't mention that he got injured today with the ankle injury.
Yeah, I mean that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, I mean that's one of the benefits of having the bye. Excuse me. Obviously, is that he gets 2 weeks, but there wasn't really much of an indication on how serious they thought that injury would be. But he's a guy that gives them. I mean, I know we talk about this every time his name comes up, but he gives them sort of a dynamic on defense with that speed in that position that they really don't otherwise have. That would be not devastating. This isn't like Juan Thornhill, with the ACL right before the playoffs last year, which turned out to be okay, right? But it's not that big of an injury, but that's something to monitor. I would just underline, really what McDowell just said about both DeAndre Baker and Tim Ward. He got the sack like you guys mentioned, but I felt like he got some pressures too. I felt like he was beating the guy in front of him, as many times as not. That guy has a bright future. Blair, you just mentioned like that Brett Veach, and he does this sometimes. He did it with Tershawn Wharton too, and some other guys. Well, he'll just like bring up a name that you kind of maybe don't really know much about, and sometimes you just don't know if it's an executive, sort of pushing his guy, right? But God, Tim Ward showed out, and that was a Chargers team that was playing this game like it mattered. That was an NFL game that an NFL opponent that Tim Ward was playing against. So that's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes Brett Veach acts kind of, it's like humble brag to him. Hey, we found this guy, and which is great, because it puts him on the radar, and you have to.
What he should do, yeah.
So, Hey, Herbie, how you doing?
What's going on, guys?
Herbie, who did they start on the offensive line today? I had to look at the program. I had to go to the Chiefs website to find out who all those guys were.
Hey, we know who Martinez Rankin is. We know who Wisniewski is at left guard. Rankin obviously drew the start at left tackle. Daniel Kilgore, their free agent signing over training camp previously with the San Francisco 49ers. Right guard, hey, we had Mizzou guy, Mr. Durant. And then over at right tackle, a guy I know from New Orleans. Go ahead, Melly. Go ahead and do one of these.
He did it.
Formerly with the Saints. So, of course, I knew about him. Hey, it gave them an opportunity to rest everyone. Eric Fisher, Nick Allegretti, Andrew Wiley, Austin Ryder. They all were able to get their rest. And I thought the offensive line, for the most part, actually held up. They got lucky there because Joey Bosa wasn't playing for the LA Chargers. But, yeah, I thought they did pretty well.
Maybe except for the safety, and then the 4th and 1. I thought that was a poor choice. The 4th and 1 in the third quarter when they had Darwin Thompson going to the middle. Your 185-pound back up the gut after converting a 3rd and 1 with Anthony Sherman successfully on the same series. Hey, so we're getting comments and a couple of names. Couple of names that have come up and another face that's come up. Vahe Gregorian. How are you, Vahe?
I'm good, Blair. Thanks for putting up with me. How you guys doing?
Vahe on the move from the press box to the office. It's good to see you, Vahe. Another player who kind of showed out today, I thought, was Rashad Fenton as a kick returner.
Yes.
Brings the opening kickoff back 44 yards, averages almost 30 yards a kick return. I think we may see. I know Pringle returned the last one, but I think we may be seeing more Rashad Fenton back there at kick return. And now I wonder about Micole Hardman as a punt returner. What
if anything? I think with Fenton, because if I'm not mistaken, these were his first touches as a returner this regular season, and you're right. He showed some tremendous burst, and you mentioned Micole Hardman, the snafu with the punt, the muff punt there. If you're not comfortable with him, why not give a guy like Fenton the opportunity? Because we've heard Dave Tobe speak about it throughout the entire season that they had other options at returner, and he did mention Fenton, and now we saw what he can do. I thought he showed some tremendous burst as a returner. He averaged 29.7 yards per kick return, the one long return for 44 yards. So he's certainly a guy to consider if you want to go that way in the postseason.
Mike says Micole Hardman, by all respect, should have dominated the targets in this game. Future doesn't look so bright. Can we go that far with Micole Hardman?
I don't know if you can say definitively what he's going to be as a player going forward, but I do think it's fair to say that at least I thought there was more in him this year. I thought we were going to see more out of him this year, and the production just hasn't been there. He's had opportunities to make plays, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. It, again, doesn't mean it's not going to. He's still a young player, but he hasn't met what I think was a fair expectation for him.
And there's instances. I was just gonna say there's instances. He showed such burst on one play after the catch today, where you wonder why he can't do that more consistently, because the talent is there. It's pretty obvious what the Chiefs saw in the draft. He's got a level of speed that most guys, even in this league, don't have. And I am surprised that hasn't led to more consistency. And to me, it goes back to what we've been talking about all year and even into last year. It's the route running. He's got to become a more adept route runner on this short and intermediate stuff to be a consistent performer in this league.
I don't think it's fair to really judge.
Oh, go ahead, Herbie.
Yeah, I don't think it's really fair to judge Micole Hardman's what he was able to do today with mostly the second team.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that stands out to me. Deion Yelder had 6 targets this game, and that's probably a product of his comfort level or Chad Henne's comfort level with Deion Yelder, because Yelder is a backup tight end. So when you're practicing, Henne's not running the first team offense. He's running the second team offense, and Hardman's not running with the 2s. Hardman's running with the 1s. So that's why it makes sense that throughout the game, to me, I always noticed, and I actually mentioned it in the press box, Henne seems to be looking for Yelder a lot, and he was throwing his way.
You know, the only thing I'd add about Hardman is that to me, the thing that has become a pattern is you're always kind of wondering when that mental mistake is going to happen. And that punt return today was a great example. I mean, he let himself be in no man's land. You know, he kind of went like this as it was coming down. Then he kind of hung by close enough that he had to react instead of make a play, and then he didn't make the play. I just think we see that kind of thing out of him a little more often than I think we should now, and not exactly that way, right? In different forms sometimes, where you see Patrick kind of still scolding him a little bit about, you know, finishing a route and things like that. I just, that's the part that disappoints me, and I hope that he can shake it loose, because I mean that talent is special. I mean he could be tremendous.
How about Colin Saunders playing a little linebacker late in the game? Kathy noticed that, and several others. I thought that was fun. We know how he's really athletic, but I certainly don't think we're going to see much. Not only of Colin Saunders, but a lot of the players that we saw today. But a nice moment for him to not just that, but he had the fourth down stop on what amounts to a goal line stand now, right? He was the one that hit that met Justin Herbert at the goal line and brought him down, and as the replay review revealed, short of the end zone. So a kind of a nice moment for him. And let's go back just as we're talking about today's game and people who stood out. Darwin Thompson delivered somewhat of an unexpected post-game press conference with his tribute to his coach at Northeast Oklahoma, the junior college where he played. I think, Sam McDowell, I think you're going to pursue that a little bit. But I can't remember. It had to be unprompted, right?
Yeah, I think it was Pete Sweeney from Arrowhead Pride asked him a question just about how he's tried to stay positive after they brought in Le'Veon Bell this year. Obviously, it's diminished his playing time to almost nil other than special teams. And he mentioned that his JUCO running backs coach, Gerald House, was one of the guys that taught him that. And he passed away at the age of 28 in May, I think it was. And so, you know, of course, I just happened to be next up on the Zoom call and asked him why was it he was a guy that meant so much to you. And it really seems like he was, if not the guy, then at least one of the top guys that sort of had Thompson's ear on just important life decisions to make. You know, he said he wanted to go pro after he left Northeastern Oklahoma A&M. And of course, we know that he went to Utah State instead. And he said that House talked him out of that decision. He thought it was a bad decision, that he needed to have one more stop before he went to the NFL. So you could just tell he was emotional in this post-game press conference. I mean, if he wasn't crying, he was close to it.
He bowed his head and I think was definitely choking up.
Yeah. So you could tell it was a guy that had a big impact on his life and certainly his football career as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about that and reading about it. Look, give the Chargers all kinds of credit for the way that they played, and look, we've been watching Derek Carr for several years, and we're still wondering about Drew Lock with the Broncos, but I think we're seeing the next big thing at quarterback in the AFC West. Herbie, you agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. And don't forget, like on Thursday, I asked D. Spagnuolo what he thought about Justin Herbert. And Spagnuolo said, hey, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, I think we're going to see one of the next elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think he's correct here. Think about this. In 2 games against the Chiefs, Justin Herbert has topped 300 yards twice. Okay, so that's 613 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns against the Chiefs. He set the NFL record for most touchdowns by a rookie quarterback. And get this, he's the first rookie quarterback to win at Arrowhead Stadium since 2012. Extra points to anyone out there, not the panel here, but to any fans that chime in all of a sudden and know who the last rookie quarterback to win, opposing quarterback to win at Arrowhead Stadium was. I think Justin Herbert he's special. He made some throws in the first game that made me raise my eyebrows. And tonight he made some throws. I was like, that's pretty good. This guy's going to be special.
That 2012 rookie quarterback, I don't know it off the top of my head, but there were plenty of opportunities for quarterbacks to come in and win in 2012. Chiefs finishing 2-14. So actually, I think I do know, but I'll keep it. I like the challenge there, Herbie. Hey, Melly, what did you think? I'm looking. We can rationalize this, right? The first time the Chiefs played them, they were preparing for Tyrod Taylor. Today, when they played him, it was with just a bunch of reserves. So still, he's done enough in between those two games to impress me.
No, he's legit, man. Like I don't know how you could watch him play, and it's not just against the Chiefs, like Herbie was saying. I mean, he's been doing this against everybody, and he's smart. He's big. And that's something that they didn't really show at Oregon until the end, until the bowl game, maybe the last regular season game, if I remember right, is how good he is with his legs. He's really mobile, and he can move around, and he can move a pocket. You know what I mean? Like that's 6'5", 240 or whatever coming at you. He's got a great arm, quick release. He appears very smart. I mean that's a big jump. To go from what he was doing at Oregon, and the calls that are required and all that, to go into the NFL. I'm nothing but impressed with that guy. I mean, the Chargers have kind of like a cursed, existence in a lot of ways. And they lost, I think was it 7 games by a possession or less this year. And
had the lead in many of them.
Yeah.
Like a second half lead.
Yeah. So that, the Chargers, just sort of institutionally are capable of screwing some things up, but they've got a lot of talent with that guy and some of the guys around him as well.
I think it might have been through 9 weeks that there were 3 teams in the NFL that had not lost by more than one possession. Of course, at that time the Steelers were undefeated, the Chiefs had only lost once, and I think the Chargers were like 2-7, and they were the 3rd team that hadn't lost by more than a possession.
But it's funny too to contrast that with the Chiefs, right? So the Chiefs win 7 straight by basically one possession, and 8 or 9 overall, I think, and flip that, and each of those teams, and things look a little different.
Hey, Blair, has anyone chimed in yet on who the rookie quarterback was?
Nicole has. She says the last rookie quarterback to win at Arrowhead was Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, absolutely correct. And I got to give credit to Danny Marquino, our good friend Danny Marquino, who's now with the Chargers PR staff. He actually alerted me to that during the game and said, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but Andrew Luck was the last rookie quarterback there, and our guy just beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. So shout out to Danny Marquino, formerly of Chiefs PR, now with Chargers PR.
Andrew Luck's last game was at Arrowhead, as it turned out as well. Playoff loss a couple years ago. So Rob asks, did the Chiefs get it right by resting their starters? Depends, right? I mean, if 15-1 was really important to you, hey, what do you think? They leave with a couple of injuries that, my gosh, I mean, one guy, I don't know how soon you come back from a broken femur, for gosh sakes.
Well, you're right, and in a certain way, it's not like that really is what would have happened to somebody else, but it's a reminder of what's out there, right? You think first, do no harm. Blair, I and all you guys, we've talked about this before a little bit, but I was kicking this around a little bit with Sam Mellinger earlier. It does remind me a little bit of that 2015 scenario when the Royals were in Game 4, middle of the game, we're getting ready to write our stuff, and the sort of planning session is we're going to write about how all the moves backfired by like resting their players in September and everything, and how the season wasn't worth anything because of what happened, and then they win the game, and the whole narrative flips. And so I refer to that mostly just to say I think we're going to feel like we're going to judge whether they should have rested them entirely on how it goes from here. I'm sure that there'll be some skepticism if they come out slow and can't rebound like they did in all 3 playoff games last year. I tend to think Andy feels the horse under him, right? I mean, he's the guy who knows the pulse of this team. I think he knew what he was doing. You got to take advantage of the luxury of rest. And as Andy put it before, they're not going to forget the plays. I think it was the right move. And I don't think this game has any bearing in any way. I mean, I think it might bother some observers that they lost and all that, but I think anybody really drilled into it understands that this was a glorified exhibition game.
Can I just say, like, real quick,
Actually,
I don't have any patience for somebody that thinks that the Chiefs should have played their starters today. That is a empty argument to me on every level. And of course, like, it doesn't mean that that Bashad Breeland or Charvarius Ward or Tyrann Matthew, some other defensive back, would have broke his femur, right, the way that DeAndre Baker did. But just to be able to say you're 15-1 instead of 14, I just they did the right thing, man. This team, you look at the salary cap and just like also just how they play, they are disproportionately reliant on those stars. And if you lose any of those guys, that's a potential disaster. That would have been a much more lively press conference, by the way. Zoom conference today after the game or something like
that. Well, I go back. Listen, I go back to the playoff game after the 2017 season, and they lost Travis Kelce to the concussion just before halftime in the playoff game with a 21-3 lead, and how that changed the game entirely for the Chiefs in the second half. And ended up losing to the Titans that day. So, no, I'm with you. I just don't see how Andy did the right thing. I guess we'll only realize this in hindsight. But how many times have we talked about it? And they showed the graphic today. Mahomes not playing as well in the last 4 games as the previous 12, and the Chiefs kind of lucky to scrape by the Falcons last week, and then they lose today by 17. Listen, they've been in this position before and have won the game. And Andy Reid had won his last 6 Week 17 games, whether he was playing his starters or not. And he lost his first one, and that was in overtime. Remember that in 2013, his first year with the Chiefs. And today look, it is what it is. I picked the Chargers to win the game. I think we all felt going into this that the Chargers were going to win this game. I thought the Chargers had a little more motivation today than maybe what a team with a 6-9 record coming in you'd expect.
Just to, I guess, play a little bit of a contrarian on all this. Patrick Mahomes' last game, we all thought he was fooled by some of the stuff the Falcons were doing, and Melly wrote a great piece on it over the weekend. Him going 20 or 21 days without seeing anything like that in an NFL game, I'm not saying it should make you want to play the guy today, but I do think that's something that could be a storyline whatever day they play, whether it's January 16th, January 17th. I think that could be something we're talking about. He hasn't thrown an NFL pass in 3 weeks by the time they next play, and I think that could be a factor.
I think so too. I think it's legit. But I am falling back on a little crutch here, and it's just a fun number that I checked out. Blair and I had been talking about this a little bit. So the Chiefs, with Mahomes as a starting quarterback, are 4-1 in the postseason. Before that, they were 4-16 in the postseason since their last Super Bowl. I just like the number. I just wanted to show off after we.
I just
respect the hustle, man. That was great.
I just looked that up and wanted it to go somewhere in here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hey, so anybody else scoreboard watching today? I was.
Oh yeah.
I'm spending as much time watching other games as I was the Chiefs. So yeah, that's the nature of the beast. We have the playoff bracket. I don't think we have times yet. Maybe someone can double check. But we do know that the Bills are the 2 seed, and they'll play host to the Colts. Steelers are the 3. They play host to the Browns. Wow, Cleveland gets to go to Pittsburgh next week. And then the Titans pulled out a last play victory over the Houston Texans. Are the 4 seed, and they'll play the Baltimore Ravens. So, how does the bracket set up for the Chiefs? Does it matter? Is there anything to glean from the AFC bracket?
So I actually think that this is as good, or maybe just as top heavy as the AFC's been in a long time. I think that any of those teams are capable of beating the Chiefs. And I really mean that. The Chiefs will be favored. They should be favored. I'm going to pick them against any other AFC team. But those guys, those other teams, this will be a tougher road. If the Chiefs get there, it'll be a tougher road to the Super Bowl than they had last year. I think regardless of who they play. It's a really good field. It's a really good field top to bottom.
Hold up, Melly. You're saying the Browns can beat the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Really?
You like Myles Garrett? You like Mike Remmers blocking Myles Garrett? Is that how you want Patrick Mahomes protected? I mean, there's a million ways. Like, I mean, I do think the Browns are probably the best matchup or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a way that the Browns can beat them. I think the Colts have stars at every level on the defense and all over their skill positions. Although I don't like Phillip Rivers in the playoffs. You know, there's a reason the Chiefs are going to be favored against any of these teams. But yeah, I think that any of these teams are capable on the right day of beating the Chiefs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if all the favored teams win, you could see. I mean, Derrick Henry just crossed 2,000 yards for the season. That would be an interesting matchup. And the Titans' defense isn't what it was last year. But to me, I mean, the Bills are a problem. They're the second best team in the NFL, and I include Herbie's Saints in that argument, and the Seahawks and the Packers. I think the Bills are the second best team in the NFL right now. They look great. They played with not much to play for today against a Dolphins team that had everything to play for today and just blew them out of the water.
Destroyed them. Yeah, you're right, Mac. I love the Bills, man. They're dangerous. That's a team that's going to be an interesting team to face in the postseason.
I think Tua didn't help himself today as as the future Dolphins quarterback. That's interesting. And he went what, 5th and Herbert 6th in the draft last year. So there was one scenario where the Ravens could have been the 7th seed and the Bills kind of locked into the 2. I was kind of hoping those two teams would have to face each other in the first round just to get one of them out of the way. As I think the Ravens, motivated, playing well, motivated for the regular season embarrassment in Baltimore by the Chiefs earlier this year. And I agree with you guys on the Bills. Just a really tough out. Of course, the Chiefs could not see the Bills into the AFC Championship game. And, in Baltimore, the Ravens playing at Tennessee, the Ravens have all kinds of a revenge motivation in that game. That was the Titans that knocked them out, embarrassed them in the playoffs a year ago. We'll see if, I think that's a good test for a character test for Lamar Jackson. See if he rises to the occasion and doesn't let that happen again. I don't know who will be favored in that game. Baltimore was a big favorite last year in that. So,
Blair, you made this point when we were talking the other day, and it's kind of interesting, and we don't know how it's going to take shape yet. But one of the things that stood out about last season's playoffs for the Chiefs was that to get to the Super Bowl, they beat two teams they had lost to. They knew them a little bit. I don't know if that necessarily was a certain form of incentive. I think the incentive of the playoffs is probably enough, but that might get flipped on them this year. They might be in position to take on two teams or one team that they'd beaten earlier.
So there's 4 teams in both the AFC and NFC brackets total that the Chiefs defeated during the season, right? Bills, Ravens, Bucks, and Saints. I guess I don't think I'm missing one, but
Bills, Ravens, Bucks, Saints. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got plenty of time to break down the AFC playoff picture, and we'll do that later this week. We'll get ready for the games. Wild card weekend means 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. And as Pete Gradhoff reminded me today, one of the games, maybe one each day, will be broadcast on Nickelodeon. So I did not know that. So,
exclusively?
Yeah. So those of us who have had kids know where Nickelodeon is on the dial. We'll watch. If you're to watch that, maybe get a little SpongeBob in there as well. So. All right, guys. Appreciate the conversation. Hey, and all you guys for weighing in. A lot of good comments tonight. And please join us again. I think we're going to come at you on Thursday as well. Even though the Chiefs don't play this week, I think we need to talk about the playoffs, and we will hear from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, other players tomorrow. So we need to talk about that as well. So for Sam, Vahe, and Herbie, and our producer, Beth Welsh, good night, and we'll talk to you again soon.